One thing I just want to reflect back to you is just first of all, like how amazing it is that when you give yourself permission to lean on people, then you also give other people that permission.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like that they get to whoever's like, man, Alesha is just juggling all the balls. Okay, I was a little childish. I was childish.
Do I need to hold it together right
Tito,
now?
she ain't juggling all the balls, okay?
I was childish. What can I say? You know.
Shout out to Tito's balls. You can edit that. Edit that.
You can edit that.
Edit the Tito balls.
No, leave it. I'm childish, okay? But you were, right? And so then it's like anybody who's thinking like, girl, like you doing all of this stuff, like that's pressure. Like I need to step my game up. Mm-hmm. But stepping their game up means let me ask for help.
We got Asen and Jason in the building. I'm saying, always shouting out the producer, the man, the myth, the legend. Without Jason Hapeman from At Your Core Communications, none of this happens. So it is an honor, and it is a privilege, and it is a blessing to meet weekly with you. I'm Drew.
I'm Keena.
I'm Drea. I'm Alesha. I'm from Fitchburg Farms.
Welcome, Alesha.
Plot twist. We got a guest speaker.
Nobody was ready.
Can I just say that I feel so blessed and I feel so honored to be a part of each other's lives. You know, you are more than a friend to me, family. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for you or for the little ones or for Tito. You welcome me into your house. You welcome me into your world with open arms, and I'm grateful. And I appreciate our journey together.
I appreciate it. I'm so glad you're a part of my life. And all it took was asking you about some chairs.
Literally. So real quick before we go into how Alesha wants to edify herself and talk about herself, Alesha calls Pancake Cafe and says, hey, I want to rent these chairs. And I'm on the phone doing dishes, holding Asen. And I'm like, well, before we talk about that, why don't you talk about like your characteristics, your values, your beliefs? And I want to hear you edify yourself. She was like, okay. And I was not expecting that. And I'm like, Asen, I'm about to put you down, bro. It's about to get intense. 5 minutes, she gets me. And I'm just supercharged. So I'm like, yeah, Asen, I got to put you down for real. And I'm like, is it my turn? Then we just drop bars with each other. You know, we're just very like-minded. And then she went back to the chairs. How much are the chairs? I'm like, yeah, the chairs for free. I drop them off. It's raining, but I don't care. This is going to be a everlasting thing. Oh, what's that song? An Everlasting Love.
This will be that one?
Yeah, this will be an everlasting love. Yeah, this will be. You know what I'm saying?
Karaoke on.
Hey. And then here we are, 5 months later? 6 months later?
5 months later.
Yeah, and I just feel like she's known me, forever. I feel like I've known her forever.
My kids call you Uncle Drew.
Uncle Drew. I get hugs. You know what I'm saying? When kids hug me, I feel so honored and privileged. Like, man, you allow me into your space, little homie. I'm like, cool. Like, when Caleb come up to me and he says hi and he wants his presence to be known, I'm like, what's up, bro? Like, let's do it. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're very, very appreciative to have you. Episode 16, So who is Alesha?
I mean, depends on the day. No. So I work at Fitchburg Farms. I'm the general manager there. And that was a journey in and of itself. So I started working there after halfway through the pandemic because I desperately needed to get out of my house and feel like I was serving people again and like being a part of the world outside of my house. I have 3 kids, and so I'd been home with them for the last several years. So that's another part of who Alesha is. I have my kids, and being a mom is super important to me. Our family is super important to me. But as far as Fitchburg Farms, being the general manager, our goal is to really elevate the business and make progress in how we treat our employees and how they have buy-in in the business. And we have a lot of high schoolers, so how do we create meaningful and long-lasting connections with them? And also doing things that support other local businesses around us. So for the chairs that we were talking about, we wanted them for a kids' day during our winter market. And the winter market is a thing we do where we had over 120 local businesses, so small businesses, come in and they showed us their crafts or their products or whatever they were doing, and they got to set up for 6 weeks and sell. And so it was a win-win on both sides, because during December, the greenhouse is not doing a whole lot. So we were able to use that space in a way that was helpful to our community, but also benefited us. So it was a win all around.
Because we talked about this, and just like talking about your story.
Yeah.
So can we talk about maybe what do you think? First 15, first 20?
What?
Like first 20 years of your life.
Oh gosh.
Where did Alesha start? Where did she grow through, and where did she end up? Or you could be the whole life. Or is that too big?
I mean,
I don't know.
Where are you at for space? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, because
I feel like that's a big question.
My immediate thought is, I don't know how old you are, so you're 15, first 20.
I feel
I'm like, well, how many?
Are you 27?
Oh, boo, no.
26?
Thank you so much.
She's just like us, 3 kids.
You don't
15.
have to disclose.
I'm 32. I don't mind.
You're 32?
Okay, I'm 32.
Shut the front door.
True story.
And
We're older than her.
yeah, we are older than her.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
So 32 with 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And married.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Family's important to you.
Yeah. So my husband and I are college sweethearts.
Hey.
So we were 19.
College sweethearts.
And I feel like we're jumping ahead. Like let's go back.
Okay.
Go back a little bit
Yeah. You got the mic.
This is me.
Literally.
So growing up, it's me, my mom, my sister. So just the 3 of us. And my mom worked all the time because single mom, got to support the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So she worked all the time, and it's interesting looking back now as a parent and being like, dang, you really did a lot for us. And I think when you're a kid, you don't fully appreciate that because you just don't realize the scope of the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And especially being a single parent, right? I lean on Tito so much as my partner to help with the kids and to help with just life, and she didn't have anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, as an adult, I appreciate that sacrifice so much more than I ever did as a kid. As we got older and my mom was working more because we were able to take care of ourselves at home, my sister and I became really close because it was always then me and my sister, right?
So when you say older, what age?
Probably 12.
Okay.
I was 11, 12, and then she would have been 14, 15.
Okay.
So not quite driving yet.
Yeah.
But getting.
But illegally driving. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So my sister has been married to her husband, or has been with her husband. They're high school sweethearts, 15 years old.
Okay.
So he could drive. So
Okay.
it was all good.
Yeah.
We had a ride.
Y'all had a way.
We had a way.
Yeah.
And it was fine. But I got a job at 14. I had things I wanted to do, and I had seen my mom work hard. So I was like, that's the way to success. You got to work.
Yeah.
You got to have a job, right? And then I was involved in the People program. Shout out to People program. With People program, the deal is you are in that program for most of middle school into high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then the assumption is you will go to UW-Madison, and you do get a scholarship, which is amazing. It's an amazing blessing. But I felt like my future was written for me. I didn't have that choice, right? It was an expectation.
Yeah.
That I was going to go to a 4-year school because I was the smart one. And so I had all these preconceived things that were pushed upon me because that was the idea my family had, my mom and my sister had. So I jumped a little bit ahead, but we'll come back. And so went through high school. It was fine. Nothing too exciting. I feel like I was very much in my shell. I was not myself because I didn't know how to be myself. And then I got to college and the game was entirely different.
Yeah.
My dad is Mexican. My mom is white. And so I didn't know a ton about my dad's side of it, right? The culture and the people and all of those things. And so I went to UW-Madison. People program is very much based in minorities. So I made so many friends who were able to teach me about my Mexican heritage and that side. And so I was able to dig into this whole other part of my personality and my roots and my history that I didn't fully understand and I had not fully embraced. So that was really big. And I think really helped me and become more comfortable with myself. Because growing up, I was not white enough for white kids, but I was not Mexican enough for Mexican kids.
So then how did you identify yourself? Did you identify yourself in any particular way? Did you be like, I'm white, I'm Mexican, I'm mixed?
I'm mixed.
Okay.
Like I'm half Mexican, right? Like that was usually what it went with. And so I went to a very predominantly white high school. And so like my sister actually got jumped by some of the Mexican kids there at the time because they were like, oh, well, you don't fall in line with us. So like, then you're against us. Right. And so like, it was hard to navigate that and be like, okay, I got to be careful, like how I toe this line. So that was hard. And then like once I got into college, like it was a lot more accepting. Like I knew so many people that were also mixed or, you know, were maybe half Mexican and half Chinese. Like, right. I had a lot of friends that came from a lot of different backgrounds and I was exposed to so much more diversity that I was much more comfortable in being myself and who that was.
I can really resonate with that. You remember in high school, because I'm Sicilian and Mexican, for those who don't know, I was in that same like environment. I wasn't Mexican enough for the Mexican kids. I wasn't white enough for the white kids. And when I took Spanish class, because my father was an absent father and he's Mexican as well, I resented learning Spanish from a white woman when I felt my father should be teaching me this language. So even like, you know, freshman year, sophomore year, I think I passed Spanish with like D's or C's, something. You remember, you were there with me.
You were there.
High school sweethearts. But I really resonate with that, you know, and even like it took me a long time growing up out of my shell, even as a young adult, college kid, to come out of my shell and be like, hey, like, I don't speak the best Spanish, or like I don't speak Spanish that you're going to resonate with, but I'm going to speak it. I'm going to try, because for a long time I would internalize who I was
100%.
And when share that with people, you know, people that speak Spanish to me, I just be like, hi, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying hola. I'm not saying como estás. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying any of that Spanish because I didn't want to open up that gateway because I was so uncomfortable.
Because then they start speaking Spanish and you know what's going on. And you have to be like, oh, wait, I don't speak Spanish that well. And you have to like backtrack. And for me, at least, I felt less than.
Right? Not worthy, not valued. Now I'm in my restaurant, but it's totally bien. Okay, I'm glad you guys enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so are you more fluent in, like, is that a goal of yours to speak Spanish more? Or
it's a goal of mine. So my husband is 100% Mexican.
Okay.
And so his family is fluent in Spanish. He's fluent in Spanish. It's really important to me that our kids can speak Spanish. And so like I took high school Spanish. I took 4 years of Spanish, right? But I think a lot of people, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. And I wasn't using it on a daily basis. So like I could carry on a basic conversation about like food or like, can I get another beer? Like basic conversational stuff. But I am really self-conscious about it. Like even around my husband's family, who they'll speak Spanish all the time, I'm still really self-conscious about it because I worry about my pronunciation. Did I conjugate that verb correctly? Like, you know, I mean, in Spanish, you can conjugate a verb 6 different ways. So did I use the right one or am I not making sense to anybody? And that's really hard being somebody who's coming into a family that speaks, you know, everybody is fluent and there are some people who only speak Spanish. So Spanish is the primary language spoken so that the family members who only speak Spanish aren't being left out. And so like now it's flipped, right? Like now sometimes I'm left out. And I think I've told Drew this before, like when I'm in those situations and everybody's speaking Spanish, there's a lot of times I completely disconnect. Like I just like step away from the conversation mentally because I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And I've totally had people be like, oh, Alesha, didn't you hear what my grandma just asked? And I'm like, no, man, I'm sorry. Like I wasn't here. Like I was in an alternate reality.
Did you ever have times where you were not comfortable identifying as Mexican because you couldn't speak Spanish?
Oh yeah. Especially like I would say, especially in high school, right? Because people be like, well, if you're Mexican, why can't you speak Spanish? Don't you get straight A's in there? Like, aren't you having a quinceañera? And I was like, I don't even know what a quinceañera is.
That's my son right now. He's like, he finally told me that he doesn't identify as Mexican because he doesn't want people to ask him
or Sicilian
if he can speak the 2 languages. He's like, because then they'll start to talk to me and I don't know either one of them.
Right.
So he just identifies as African American.
Yeah, and it's a battle because like the languages, I feel like, is such a big part of it, right? Like it feeds into all of it. And there's like a certain speed and there's like inflection on words and there's slang. And so like, you know, you don't know any of it. And so like, I feel like you're missing so much, not only in the words, but like in the context and the meanings.
Asen is like, I want to taste your lips.
I just want to eat you just a little bit.
This would be a really great opportunity for a brand partnership, I have one in mind I'm going to reach out to about getting a little ad in here about a really good language learning app.
Ooh, I love that.
You know, I have some in mind, but I'm not going to mention them because we got to get paid for that.
Amen.
There is one I use. I wonder if it's the same one.
Right.
So well, we can talk about that later.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when we talk about boundaries and expectations, we're all learning, we're all growing. You're all about it.
Yeah.
You know, not to project, but I know that. So just so y'all know. And Alesha, just to give a little background, has listened to almost every podcast.
Almost.
You know, and we spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you just in that element. Because we recently talked about when we're spending time with family, you know, when we're talking about your husband's family, you know, how important it is to be connected in that moment so you don't miss other moments that are transpiring.
Yeah.
You know, if you're around all the Spanish speaking things and the kids are doing something in the same room, you're subconsciously checking out and you're not even paying attention to the kids.
Correct.
And that's not your purpose or intent.
No.
It's just something that you've been programmed to do.
Yeah.
So have you set any boundaries or any expectations with any of Tito's family that you do feel safe and supportive with, that you do feel vulnerable with, and saying, hey, like when we're in this environment, in this moment, can you be like my partner? Because I don't speak Spanish very well, but I want to stay in the moment and I don't want to drift. So can you kind of like translate some of the things that are more like important or some things that are moments that you want to highlight with me?
I have never done that with anybody other than Tito. But I feel bad asking my husband to do it, right? Because his family's from Chicago. We go down once a month.
Why do you feel bad?
But I feel bad because I feel like he doesn't get enough time with his family. So then to ask him to do a secondary task instead of being able to be fully present and involved in things, like that feels like I feel guilty for that because I'm taking away his time for authentic connection.
Does he feel that way?
That's a really good question. Never asked.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I would encourage you to ask him, because we talk about a lot about projecting our feelings or our thoughts.
That's me. I'll own it.
She, what do you call those?
Builders.
Projector screen.
Oh,
that's Alesha. In a positive way.
You're not wrong.
You know,
we're learning. We're growing.
Yeah,
it's
we're
okay.
all growing. So I think I would definitely encourage you, and I don't know if to listen to podcasts or not, but I would encourage you to ask him, like, hey, like, you know, I always want to be safe and supportive when we're together. And I yearn to be more connected with your family. Are you okay doing this? Because me knowing your husband, I think he'll be like, yeah, babe, like, of course, like, you are part of my moment. You know what I mean? Like, without you there, if you're not there and you're checking out, there's no point of you being there.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You know what I mean? But I know how y'all rock together. I've seen it. I felt it. You know what I mean? In many different environments. You know what I mean? Farkle, shooting dice. Shout out to Farkle. You know, that's a free game. It's a dice game, but whatever. You know?
She said,
literally. But it's not a game you buy. It's just dice. You know, it's like playing spades. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I would encourage you to ask him that. You know, and then you know, even thinking about stepping outside your comfort zone, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Some of the close members some of the relatives that you're close with, you can just open up. You know, be vulnerable.
Well, and it's interesting because now that you've said that, like there are certain aunts of his who will, like, if they know I've missed the joke, missed the conversation, they're like, oh, she said like this. Yeah. And so I'm sure if I phrased it as like, hey, could we make that more regular so that I'm not disconnecting from the moments and I can be more present? Yeah. But you'd be like, yeah, no problem. Yeah. But I've just never asked.
Lead with love.
Lead with love.
Yeah, I love it. You know. And you don't know what's going to happen, right? You may be scared. You may get your feelings hurt. You know, but living behind that fear, you know, is going to encourage disconnection as opposed to encouraging connection.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I support that.
Yeah, I love it. I used to be like that with my dad's family. You remember when we used to go to Amelia's house? Shout out to Amelia. I doubt she watches the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
She might want to say
one day. But you know, that used to be uncomfortable for me. Like they would argue in Spanish. You remember when my dad bought me those $200 shoes, those Jordans? So back in the day, if y'all know who Michael Jordan is, shout out to Michael Jordan. You can pay us too. You remember they came out with those black and silver shoes that came in the black and silver suitcase box? Does anybody remember that?
I'm not a
I don't care about shoes.
Yeah,
I don't anymore, but I did then. They're like $200, and I remember being my dad's, you know, hoopty. you know, and we just left the mall, and I got these shoes, and I'm the happiest kid in the world, right? You know, I think my dad loves me because he did this. And I remember her like yelling at him, and I remember her saying "200," and that's 200. That's 200. You know what I mean? But it triggered me. I'm like, oh snaps! Like she's mad at my dad. I'm like, Dad, you want to return these, bro? Like I can get some different shoes. But it's just interesting, like to not know. You know what I mean? That's the scariest feeling in the world to me is the unknown.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, and that hinders a lot of people to grow professionally, personally, in love and relationships.
Absolutely.
Like we don't know, but you don't know unless you try, or you don't know unless you do.
That's right.
You know.
Shout out to the movie Frozen.
Okay.
Frozen 2. You know, because I be feeling like them Disney movies, like, you know, be giving you good lessons. And that was one of the lessons for me from Frozen 2 was that into the unknown. I'm not going to harm y'all. You're
going to harmonize the words?
Yeah.
Ace loving you right now, by the way. He loves when you sing to him.
But that song is literally about that. Y'all listen to the song, watch Frozen 2, because it's all about taking those chances and those risks and stepping into the known, stepping out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say stepping out on faith, but that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I love it.
You know, into the unknown. You're going into the unknown. You don't know what's out there, but you know that, hey, whatever is out there look, whatever my current circumstances are, I want to change them so bad that I'm willing to step into the unknown for the chance that maybe I'm going to get it right. Maybe I'm going to expose myself and my awareness to something that's going to change whatever I'm currently dealing with. Going to the unknown. So yeah, Frozen 2, y'all. That movie was so good. I cried 3 times in that movie because it was so magnificent.
I really resonate with that only because Frozen 2, the song "Do the Next Right Thing."
Yeah.
Like when you don't know what to do, all you have to do is do the next right thing.
Girl.
Right? That's like that's my
that's
that was terrible. Oh,
shut up. Okay, wait. Elbow.
There we go.
I gotta look at the elbow. Boom.
Wasn't none of that dope.
That was wrong.
Clarify.
But we kept trying for the next
right
there. There it is. Practice the P word. Practice. Once, twice, 3 times.
Sometimes it takes 3 times to get it right.
So for those who don't know, Andrea and I on a very personal level, you both know this, but I am like the grand visionary idea, like 100-year plan. Okay, I can connect all these things. And Andrea is like that who, what, when, where, why. You don't know. How are you going to do it? And I'm like, babe, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Come on.
Yeah. And it kind of comes, okay, let me know if you resonate with this or not. That unknown and that fear, even if it's fear, not fear, most of the time it's fear. But I think it derives around the way we talk to ourselves and the way we think. You know, it's like I come to something and then if I don't want to do it or it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, I start to question it. I start to wonder all the negative things that could potentially happen to me. You know, I start to worry. I start to get anxiety, you know, but learning how to check yourself where it's like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable? Because I don't know. Well, let's go find out. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. That is so hard. It's so difficult to develop that habit.
Self-talk.
Yeah, because like we said on last episode, you know, hold on, let me, on my last episode, we are assembled to shut up, right? We're assembled to have our emotions and our thoughts and our actions be dismissed. We are assembled to listen and not ask questions. You got another word?
And we are being raised like, you know, like y'all let me know how your experience is, but I'll say like for me growing up in a Black mom household, assembled to always think about the worst case scenario.
Yes.
You know, my mom, and she will tell me with all the pride and the joy in her heart, like, you got to think about what the worst thing that can happen. This could happen. You could die. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody could kidnap you. Somebody could kill you. Somebody could human traffic you. You know, somebody can steal your organs. You know what I mean? Like even before, like these were things that, you know, like was like ingrained, the worst case scenario. And she taught us that.
Instilling doubt, instilling fear.
What is that doing to you? Because you don't like the installation of doubt. You're doing
no,
or to instill, you know, to like let that be the leading force.
Did you have a single mom?
Yes.
So I wonder if that's not a single mom thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I got that a lot. Like my mom is very much a realist.
Yeah.
Like here's the worst thing. Like if you move out of this house and you can't make it on your own, don't come back to me. Like
Yeah,
you could end up out there on your own. So you better make sure you are ready to leave before you leave this house. Right? Like
I went back a few times.
I did too.
Yeah.
But like,
Ain't no shame in my
right?
game.
Because like they wouldn't let you come back.
Yeah.
They just wanted to make sure you understood.
Yeah.
Like there was real consequences, and it wasn't like, oh, I could just move out today and I'll be on my own and I'll be fine. Right? There was real responsibility. There was real things that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had said you didn't get that. So I'll have a question. Was your mom in love at one point in time?
I don't know.
Was your mom in love at one point in time?
I would say she would say yes.
I think my mom would say yes too. And I wonder
Uh-huh.
if your mom would say yes as well.
I'm gonna have to ask her.
Because I wonder if this is derived around, you know how they say it's better to have loved than to have
lost.
not. No, it's better to have loved and lost than to have not loved at all. But I would say, I think that when you love somebody and you lose love, if you don't take time to heal, if you don't take time to process, if you don't, you go into survival mode. Yeah. And I think that maybe a lot of single parent households are in survival mode right from jump because they lost something and it was so detrimental. Now they have these kids that they don't make time to process. You know, even us, we're not, you know, privileged to be able to be like, oh, here goes Asen. You know what I'm saying? We figure that out with Alesha or Anthony or like somebody in our intimate network, and we do our processing time where we process while we have Asen. You know what I'm saying? Which I think is very healthy in our relationship because he gets to be a part of that energy, and Asen will sit like a champ, just like on podcast. But it's interesting just to pay attention to how you were like, oh, I didn't get that as a child, but your parents were in love, you know. And even if they knew how to express that, you know, healthy or unhealthy, that's irrelevant. They thought that they were in love, you know.
Well, and I think too, so it's a trauma response,
Yeah.
independence, right?
Yeah.
So that maybe it wasn't that your mom loved and lost, or you know whatever. Maybe your mom went through something else. Maybe your mom went through something else. Maybe my mom went through something else. But that's a trauma response to kick into that ultra independence, right? And so maybe that's where that comes from. Is like in order to be independent, only depending on yourself, you need to think of everything that could go wrong, so that you can prepare for them because you are by yourself and you have to depend on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Because she definitely taught me to be independent. You know, my mama taught me that. She was like, always have your own source of income. Don't never get to the, you know, because these were things that
don't never depend on a man.
These were things that destabilized her. You know, when she did those things, when she did depend on somebody, when those things made her harder to get her own independence, her own freedom. To get out of those unhealthy situations. And like, of course, like if you've been in an abusive situation, those are the ways that you get abused is to isolate and then to become devalued and then to, you know, become financially and all of those dependent on your abuser. You know what I mean? So it's like, these are the tools to not be in that, you know, to try to avoid those situations.
To circle back to the, when we were talking about our moms, you know, instilling this doubt, instilling this fear, and talking about all these worst case scenarios that could happen to us. Andrea looked at me and she was like, yeah, you don't let me instill doubt in you. And that's derived around my upbringing and the growth and the character elevation where I'm at now. If Andrea says anything about it could go wrong, or like, have you thought about going this way? Or what are some different examples?
Like safer alternatives, you mean?
Yeah, not necessarily instilling that. I'm also what about this? It's just I want him to look at the bigger picture. Yeah. And Drew is just a doer, and I'm like, okay, let's do after we.
I'm the risk taker, and you're the safer. Yeah. Not that's comparison or competition, but
anytime I give him like
anybody. Remember my person. There's a person in my network. There's a person.
That's how you receive that.
Yeah, there's a person in my network who was like, hey, so and so didn't get this, so and so didn't get this. I'm like, well, don't project their limitations onto me. Right. You know what I mean?
Limitations are not yours.
Yeah, you said that. Their limitations are not my limitations. You know, and it's like going back to the assemble of you know, shut up, listening, and dismissive thoughts. It's important that we deassemble everything that we've learned. Not everything, but a lot of what we've learned, and that we do speak up. And that we do assert ourselves, and that we do ask those questions, and we do find out our own answers. I think it's so important to ask the questions to yourself. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
How do you think like that need for ultra independence? Because I can tell you how I did it.
How?
That'd be a good. I think that'd be a question for you too.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, like we hit a point in my youngest child, he's now 3. We had some pregnancy complications. I had to be induced at 34 weeks, so he was 6 weeks early. It was terrifying. So then he was in the NICU for 3 weeks after that. And it came to a point where I finally realized that I needed to be able to lean onto other people because there was no way I could be in all the places at once. And I remember sitting in the NICU crying because I was not strong enough to do all the things, right? I couldn't be there with my kids at home. So I had 2 kids at home who would have been 4 and 2 at the time. I couldn't do my job. I couldn't be there for my husband. I couldn't do all the things.
You couldn't keep it.
And I had to I literally was sitting there and I was like, girl, your network is so big. Like all you have to do is ask. But it took my son being in the hospital for me to really look at that and be like, you have people. Like it's okay to ask for help and to get to that moment. And will I say am I always really good about it? No, but I'm better than I used to be because in that moment, and actually my therapist called me out on it. Shout out to my therapist. She was like, you realize you were in the hospital in a hospital bed before you were willing to lean on your husband or other people. And when she just laid it out, I was like, damn. You right.
Yeah.
But I threw a Facebook post out that was like, can you help? Because is anybody available to help me with childcare, pick up my kids from school so I can be at the hospital? And I had so many people who reached out, and I was so humbled by the community around me. And that I had people message me who were like, I'm so glad you asked for help. That really helped me see that it's okay to ask for help. And that was powerful for me.
Understanding that giving yourself grace and saying that you don't have to do it by yourself. You have people that love you. You have people that care about you. If you ask for the love, if you ask for the care. I always tell people if you want to run fast, run by yourself. If you want to run far, run with a team. Yeah. So it's there are so many people we have on our team in our environment now where it's we couldn't do all the things we could do if we were doing it all by ourselves. You know what I mean? You got to have the Eric Thomas, you gotta have the pilots, you gotta have the flight attendants, you gotta have the grounds crew, you gotta have the plane ticket buyers. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to ET. I'm coming for you. Sorry.
Gotta have the passport.
But I don't know. Just to answer your question, how do you feel what are the things that you work on getting out of hyper independence?
Well, one thing I just want to reflect back to you is just first of all how amazing it is that when you give yourself permission to lean on people, then you also give other people that permission. You know what I mean? That they get to whoever's man, Alesha is just juggling all the balls. Okay, I was a little childish. I was childish. I need to hold it together.
Tito, she ain't juggling all the balls. Okay.
What can I say?
Shout out to Tito's balls. You can edit that.
You can edit that.
Edit the Tito balls.
No, leave it. I'm childish, okay? But you were, right? And so then it's anybody who's thinking girl, you doing all of this stuff, that's pressure. I need to step my game up. But stepping their game up means let me ask for help.
Yeah.
What happens when stepping your game up means I'm not doing everything.
I don't have to
do everything. When it means I'm breaking these cycles of all of this hyper independence. I'm breaking the cycles of suffering in silence. I'm breaking these cycles of just, putting on this facade of having everything together.
Highlight reel.
Man, yeah. It's no, I'm human. And guess what? Yeah, I do have it going on and I need help. So who can help me? Yeah. You know what I mean? Who has availability to pour from their overflow today? Who can pour into me from their overflow today?
So we have to ask the question, right? I mean, not right or wrong, but sponsors. Who wants to sponsor? We're open. We ready. We're 16 episodes in. We have a following. We have people. We have guest speakers. We got Jason Hakeman in the building. It's good, bad, breakthrough. You can message us on Facebook. You can find us on all platforms. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Instagram, Facebook, Stitcher, podcast,
Amazon Music.
Amazon Music. You know what I'm saying? Well, did I miss one?
I don't know. Like,
You was just going.
I was just observing. I was being a witness.
You're so funny. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I want to learn more about you, girl.
We done today.
We think about episode. Yo, should we bring her back on? Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, well, y'all will see Alesha again in the future. Just this is not the last of her because she has a story to tell.
Yeah.
Oh, Alesha has a story to tell y'all. So.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna break her down. We're gonna break her down. We're gonna build her up, and we're gonna leave with love. Yeah.
Leave
Holla
with
back.
love.
Good, bad breakthrough.
Hey, y'all.
Peace.